Hello, welcome back and welcome in. My name is Nikki Wheeler. If you're interested in gaming, go subscribe to my other channel and follow my Twitch to see my gaming live. Now, let's start this video. Today, I will be discussing Motionless in White, a metalcore band formed in 2004. Currently, there are 5 members of this band: Chris Motionless, the lead vocalist, Ryan Sikowski, the lead guitarist, Ricky Olsen, another guitarist, Vinnie Morrow, the drummer, and Justin Morrow, the bassist. They recorded their first EP, The Horror, released in 2007 with 7 tracks. It had songs like She Never Made It to the Emergency Room and Apocalypse, which were later re-recorded for the next EP, When Love Met Destruction, released in 2009. It had the single Ghost in the Mirror. The chorus is insanely catchy, but what I loved was how the band still produced and sounded heavy during the clean singing parts. It is a classic post-hardcore and really defines what the early 2000s were. The band's first full-length album was Creatures, released in October of 2010. It had 12 tracks. The whole piece was written by Chris, except for the titular track, Creatures, the second single off the album, which was written by fans who sent in lyrics and was an homage to those fans. Chris has stated, "I wanted to highlight the hypocrisy and hold a mirror up to all the self-righteous, holier-than-thou people and show them how full of shit they are." He believed that everyone had their own beliefs, and including them, speaking out of those people who were calling them Satanist and how they sent no message. The first single off Creatures was Abigail. As a whole, the song is a reference to the Salem witch trials, and the title is one of the main girls accused during that time period. I personally believe this song is being sung from the perspective of John Proctor, a man who was falsely arrested and executed for witchcraft during that time as well. Later, the band had released a deluxe version of the album, which included the band's cover of Rob Zombie's song Dragula. Creatures had peaked at 175 on the Billboard 200 and 6 on the Heat Seekers album. And that moves us into the second album, Infamous, released in November of 2012. The album abandoned the metalcore sound and is the most diverse work so far from the band, drawing influences from various styles of music, such as Slipknot, Marilyn Manson, Nine Inch Nails, Korn, and Cradle of Filth. Chris has stated that he and the band aimed to develop their sound to prevent it from being and becoming too generic. So this album was the first step to achieving this. The first single, Devil's Night, was the perfect introduction to Infamous, as it really highlights the growth and evolution of the band while at the same time carries over the things that most have grown to love about Motionless in White. The song is about the trials you've been through in life to continue what you love, not living by society's rules. Now, this next song isn't a single, but I did want to talk about it, and that is Synthetic Love. It is a song that sums up the feeling of dissatisfaction when in love. The lyric, "The closer I get is the further I feel," states a sense of eternal loneliness. No matter how close you are to someone, in the end you are still just you. The title track, Infamous, is definitely a favorite of mine. Chris Motionless responds to the backlash Motionless in White has gotten, as well as to some personal attacks on him. While the band tried to stray away from the iconic metalcore sound, they still did hit it in the album on multiple tracks, but a majority of the album is industrial metal and is probably one of the best in that genre in the past 20 years. The album peaked at 53 on the Billboard 200 and 5 on the top hard rock albums. Now, the third full-length work from the band, Reincarnate, released in September 2014. The album had 14 songs and the first single was Reincarnate. In my interpretation of this song, I think he's talking about how people are so condemning and hateful, and it's the depiction of how humans will be when they return from death, with lyrics like, "You sit upon your throne of filth, condemning what you haven't built." The next single was Puppets 3, the third and final installment of the Puppet series they have made throughout previous albums. To me, this song is about being in a relationship where the other person is just using you for what they want. And finally, you get the courage to say, "No, I'm out." Though it's not just about leaving, it's about having the strength to let it go and move on with your life. This album is probably one of the best critically and palpably so. The features assist in adding a little bit of variety here and there, and switching things up before they have a chance to become tiresome. They hit their quintessential genres like metalcore and gothic metal, while adding industrial metal again like the previous album, and now melodic metalcore. Reincarnate peaked at number 1 on the US top hard rock albums and top rock albums, as well as number 9 on the Billboard 200. Now, the fourth studio album, Graveyard Shift, is definitely my favorite because it has songs like Queen for Queen and The Ladder. During the chorus of Queen for Queen, there is the sound of dramatic guitars and drums paired with a relaxed melody, which is not a mixture that I have heard from the band much before, and it is definitely very different from their normal sound, yet it is still such a beautiful and well executed song. The lyrics are poetic and alluring. Some examples being, the saint charade is over, plastic royalty exposed, you want to play the victim to preach upon your throne. While there's no official meaning to this song to my knowledge, my personal speculation is that Queen for Queen is about those who hide behind large organizations like religion just to bring others down and shame them. Now the latter's meaning is, in my opinion, a hit towards women who use their beauty to climb the ladder. While I personally don't care too much about the meaning behind this song, the actual music behind it is what makes it insanely good. The little touches that add interest to the record that largely continues rather than reinvents what Motionless and White are about. Graveyard Shift is highly enjoyable and entertaining continuation for a band that knowingly winks along with the madness they concoct. This album peaked at number 1 on the top hard rock albums and 27 on the Billboard 200. Now we can talk about the fifth album, Disguise. Another incredible record released in June 2019. It is the band's first album with Vinny on the drums and former Ice Nine Kills guitarist Justin Morrow. It only held 11 tracks and did fall short in many people's eyes, though I believe this album is definitely a top 3 for me. Songs like Code and Disguise were well put together and challenged the new metal genre. Code is about finding unity and strength together in order to overcome any obstacle life throws at you. The lyrics emphasize on the idea of coming together in order to write your own code, finding freedom and safety in the company of others, and not having to feel alone all the time. The vocals build up throughout the song, ultimately having the message that whatever is written in that code can't be taken away and will go on for eternity. The song encourages listeners to step up, find the courage, and become the energy that the world needs. Disguise, though, was stated by Chris as a song about how I feel like I'm constantly having to put on this mask, put on this disguise when I show myself, which, because it is the title track, obviously this theme does circulate throughout the album, and Legacy is another one of those songs I love simply for the intensity. It is about the legacy you leave behind, and specifically the legacy Motionless and White will leave. The next album is the sixth and final one thus far, Scoring the End of the World. Chris has stated, this album is very much based on the time spent between realities, real life and pandemic life. Also, I thought it would be cool to split the lyrical content between my observations of the world ending and the end of my world eternally. Songs like Masterpiece were compared to the recognizable Breaking Benjamin, as it sounded very similar in many ways, mainly vocally. It is basically a big plea for forgiveness, but still staying true to yourself. Porcelain was my favorite track off this album, as it is a reflection on the difficulties of dealing with inner turmoil. It speaks to the idea of how self-destructive thoughts can lead to destructive behavior. Another favorite off this record was We Become the Night. The chorus is made for those who do not lead similar lives. It is for those who wish to improve the world and are on the right path in history. Chris's tone throughout the song seems different, but in a good way. For sure, a change that I think should be applied in pretty much all future releases. Many compared it to Code and several Linkin Park songs. This album hit the metalcore genre as well as industrial metal again. It was definitely a step up from Disguise in most critics' eyes, and with that, I think I'll move into the ranking. Motionless and White had a total of 6 albums released, and at number 1, I'm putting Graveyard Shift. Number 2 is Disguise, number 3 is Reincarnate, number 4 is Creatures, number 5 is Infamous, and number 6 is Scoring the End of the World. I believe that Motionless and White has stayed quite consistent throughout the years and has marked themselves in the industry as one of the most iconic and profound metalcore bands in the century. From creatures to scoring, the sound has remained theirs, and they still talk about serious topics and are lyrically intense and fierce. I highly suggest the band if you like artists like Ice Nine Kills, Black Veil Brides, or I Prevail. And with that, I think I'm going to end the video there. Drop a like if you did enjoy this video and subscribe for more content like this. Until next time, bye guys.